That's why we ended up with the master node being the same size as the compute nodes. I actually tried to make that smaller to begin with, but what we found really quickly was that the NFS just couldn't handle that much traffic without extra threads and cores on the master to handle it. And at the same time, I also know that we like to do, the guys like to do a lot of post-processing and stuff on the master node so that somebody else can run their model, right? We have competing models on the same system, basically. So, it was really just a balancing act of that. Now that I've done that legwork, creating a new cluster is actually extremely straightforward. So it's just a matter of how much initial legwork is required to move it, right? And also one of the biggest issues one of my biggest worries, this is getting highly technical in the world of computer chips, but there's a difference in the way data is stored and processed between big Idion processors, which is what we had here on site, and little Idion processors, which is what is exclusively used in Amazon. So we had to do a bunch of tests to make sure that the math was all still coming out correct.
Two questions. The big Indian and little Indian, that's just sort of like a byte swap, isn't it?
It is, and interestingly enough, everything is sent over the network in big Idion because it's smaller. The way the bytes are swapped around is actually smaller to be big Idion.
But, once you throw that switch, it's thrown, isn't it?
Yes, and worryingly, possibly, you're right, but we had plenty of anecdotal evidence that doing the processor switch had caused issues for other organizations. So it was one of those things we wanted to make sure we thoroughly tested before we said, well, let's go into production with this. Right? We wanted to be as sure as possible that our margin of error between system A and system B, we got that as narrow as humanly possible.
Okay. And one last question. You mentioned, going between Fortran 76 and say Fortran 95. Well, I don't understand that. Could you explain a little bit more by that?
Okay, so this is just as simple as the compile script, really. So the compile script had some areas that were calling F76 as the binary for the compiler. Other areas.
So when it was being compiled, it wasn't compiled in the form
right.
compiler?
Well, that particular Fortran compiler is no longer supported by anything, but it still had references. So I ended up just creating a symlink I discovered that the options were all the same. Once you went from 76 to 95 and even G-Fortran, it'll accept the same command line arguments. So it was just a matter of setting up symlinks. It was actually a really small issue.
All right, so the real difference, I think, going back one more level, Fortran 76 had the, comment line with the C in column 1. 95, I think, has replaced that with a pound sign. Did you have to make that switch, or?
Yeah, we had to make some code changes.
Yeah. Okay.
That would actually amount to my experience coding in Fortran, which is one of the reasons it took a while. Okay. I got all of my Fortran experience literally moving the models out to the cloud.
All right, so if you had to go with 95, you had to make all those, I really...
Yeah, it's just little like declarative statement changes. And
those kind of things.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of little wrinkles in getting it migrated.
Okay.
And then, you've now changed the code.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how small. You change the code, so you got to test it, right?
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
John, most of the things you mentioned are like you would have to do that on any HPC, right? Like the change, like figuring out the Fortran difference.
Oh yeah.
And then
yeah.
The path issues. And
right.
All of that. I was just thinking back to the question about like the challenges of on going to the cloud. It wasn't really most of what you said. Sounds like it's not like issues with the cloud, it's just transitioning from one server to another.
In a lot of ways, you're right. So one of the things that you kind of lose with CFN cluster is some control. There are some things in that system that, even me as a system administrator, I could change, but I wasn't ready to look at the ramifications for that. So just little things, right? For instance, when you log into, this really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the problem, by the way, but for instance, when we log into the actual classroom environment, you're going to notice that the bash string has an IP address that doesn't make any sense, because if you look up the host name or anything else, you're not going to see that IP address. But that's an internal IP address to Amazon, and all of the compute nodes are looking very specifically for that name. Now I could have changed it so it said Cloudfish or Tech Transfer Class or whatever I want, but that could create all kinds of problems. So there's just little things that are different that, you know, if you were working in a hardware to hardware environment, I could have gone out and purchased processors that were big endian. I could have set up the systems to be an exact replica. I could have even loaded the same version of the OS, which would have even taken, you know, leveled that playing field even more to the point where basically it's just a migration and not anything you have to test or something you test once or twice. But in going to the cloud, yeah, you're right. It is a lot like, there's a misnomer about the cloud that you're just using someone else's computer. It's true and it's not true. You know, there still are computers, but they are running on someone else's hardware. And there are some things that you can control that could bite you, or there are other things that you just can't control. So you have to work within the ecosystem that you have. Any other questions? I'm going to take that as a no. Oh!
Oh, no, not a question. I think you also plan to show us how to set up a party.
Absolutely not. No, I was just getting ready to get into that. So, yeah, so there are going to be labs and such things tomorrow, so we thought it would be a good idea while you have the crazy systems guy around to make sure that everybody can get connected to the server and that everything is set up correctly. So we're going to do lab 1 now, which is as simple as getting connected to the server. You guys all have your usernames and passwords now, or should. So, quick questions. One for my enjoyment. Who here has never used the command line before?
Command line.
Linux command line. Let's go for. Nice. I have never seen that before. This is great. Nobody raised their hands. Okay, so does everybody have PuTTY installed? Unless you're on a Mac, in which case you don't need it.
Have you ever used Sigwin?
I have. I've used Sigwin, name an app. I actually at home I use MobiTerm, which it's free for personal use and actually probably the best one I've ever used. Sigwin is really good at what it does, but
Because you're running a Windows environment, you got all the Linux.
yeah. But interestingly enough, Windows 10 is actually making Sigwin a thing of the past because Windows 10 now allows you, with the Pro version, to run effectively a semi-invisible virtual machine of Linux and still access it from the desktop natively, just like you would with Sigwin, but it's actually a full Ubuntu install.
Really? And it accesses all the files and everything?
I think they just enabled that. For a long time they said...
Sigwin does, you know.
Yeah, well, Sigwin's fine with that, but in Windows 10, I think that was something they put out in one of the last patches. They said, for the longest time, they said, whatever you do, don't touch the Linux files from Windows. Now they're saying, well, it's okay. I wait another couple patches before you really try it, but... Okay.
I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a program called Sigwin, which gives you Linux access inside of a Windows machine. Completely transparency to all of the Windows files. It's just like having all the Linux commands at your disposal. It's really
Okay.
quite
And forward slashes or forward slices.
well, you got that
Yes.
problem.
Well, no, that's the right way to use that word.
Okay, so this particular website I have up should have gone out as one of the PDFs. If you have it, it makes it fun just for copy and paste methods. But so I want to try to get connected here. So if we can, here we go. All right, so from PuTTY, up here we just want to put in host name, tech-transfer. .aws.chesapeakebay.net.
And that's what's up here too, on the whiteboard.
Nice. Trust me, you don't want it in my handwriting, so all the better. All right, so you could click open now if you wanted, but I actually have some plans that aren't actually on the documentation. So if you guys could try to follow along, I'm going to try to fix a couple settings that will hopefully make your days tomorrow and the day after a little easier. So what we want to do here is in this save sessions, I want you to go ahead and give it any name that you want. All right. And then once you have the host name and that on the screen, click Save. So now you have a saved session. Now we're going to edit it a little bit. So if you shouldn't need to do this step, but I always do. If you click on that save name that you had and you click on the load button, that way we ensure that that's the one that's loaded up, because I find that PuTTY can be a little strange about that sometimes. And what I want you to do is go to Connection on the left-hand side. And in this box up here, seconds between keep alives, should probably be a 0 right now. Change that to a 5 or a 10 or a 15, anything under 20 is probably good. And then click this checkbox to enable TCP keep alives. Hopefully, this will keep you from waking your laptop up and saying it's disconnected. Cross your fingers, Wi-Fi does weird things anyway sometimes, but this does tend to help. And before we go anywhere, before we save this, if we go under connection, under data, you can just put your name in here. Or I'll use 20.
So this is the student name that we should be.
Yeah, you're going to do, yeah. So that top line is your account name. The bottom line is your ever so complex password. And then once you have those two things done, if you click on session at the top again.
Wait.
Put your password?
No, just username, not password. Sadly, you're stuck typing the password.
All right, so wait, just to go back, I'm sorry. So
Yep.
we were on connection, we went to data.
Right?
All right, and that's, my window looks a little different. Let me just make sure that I'm. Of course.
Why should it be?
It never fails.
Oh, now it is. Sorry.
That's
I
fine.
didn't see the prompt. It says prompt and username. So I don't have that.
So that way
It's a
it'll,
little different. Where you say username is not specified, it says prompt. Mine doesn't. Yeah, I know you.
Oh.
Trying to say that I don't.
so the prompt, it'll either prompt for a username. So it starts with the auto login name. If you have a value in there, it uses that regardless of the next setting. If you leave it on prompt, it'll always ask you for a username.
Right.
If you put it on system username, then whatever the username of your account is on your machine is what it'll try to use.
Okay.
So now, once you have those two steps done, you just go back to session and make sure that in this box here, save sessions is whatever name that you gave this connection, and then just click save over here. And now what you should be able to do is just double click, I think it's double click, double check that one. Yeah, double click on that name and it should, now I've got an SSH key, so I don't need to enter a password. Advanced systems.
All right, we got messages.
That's okay. You should also get a message. It's all right. It's the first time you've all connected to this system, so you will get this message.
You say yes?
You just say yes to that.
Okay.
I always forget because I connect to them so soon after they're created. I never remember that thing pops up.
Okay. Now it's asking for a password, so we put our
Yep.
password in. Okay. Will we need to put in the password every time we do this?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, screw something.
That's fine. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I just noticed that we're having the same problem. Like we're sitting next to each other.
All right, so I go to here.
All right. And click on load. Okay, let's see. I was looking at tech transfer.
Tech-transfer.aws.chess.
Are you generically connected to the wireless?
Maybe not.
That would be it.
That would be it.
Or it is the most likely culprit anyway. You're now connected. So if you type exit and hit return, it'll be saved in your history now. So you can always just type the command history and hit return, and it'll show you all of your past commands. And you can always just copy and paste it again.
So if I do exit,
The present directory.
Right. And actually, at this point, you could just hit up, the up arrow.
So if I do a DF, I get a listing of all the
Yep.
disk files that are essentially mounted.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a CentOS 7 system, and they have gone to this system here of having this temp FS drive for every user that's logged in. I don't know why they did it. I guess it's a security feature. It's kind of like sandboxing, I would guess.
So you got like 10 drives that are available to you.
Well, more or less. Actually, anything that says tempfs
Right.
isn't a real drive. It's a tempfs. It's literally like a temp file system.
Yeah, but it appears like, I mean,
But
behaves like.
right, it behaves like a disk, yeah. But the only ones that really exist on this system are the root and
Which is the DEV.
yeah, and I added a modeling directory just to mirror our production system, but I don't think we're going to be using it, so I could have actually omitted it.
Okay.
All right. So actually, I could have done this in made it at least human readable. There is a little gotcha with Amazon disks if anybody cares.
So the minus H is what?
Human.
Human.
Human readable. Yeah, you could also do --human -readable, I think is the command, and who wants to type all of that.
Right, oh, okay. I haven't seen that before. Thanks.
So, there is a little wrinkle with Amazon disks. They only start to get fast at about 100 gigs. So you're kind of on the hook for $10 a month per server is really the thing they don't tell you. But it's not that bad. So unless we wanted to run through actually running the 30-box model, which I personally think probably would be better tomorrow, I'm done. But I will take any and all questions that we have, or if anybody's having problems connecting.
You want to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a copy,
yeah.
David?
No.
From S3?
Sorry, I like to say no. And actually, yeah. So we want to get the modeling code pulled from S3, which again is like Dropbox, down to your home directories. So this is the command to do that. It is a lot to type, so if you happen to have the PDF of this document, copy and paste might be your best friend.
Also, if possible, try to set up the FileZilla
Oh yeah, you're right.
for the file.
When you're right, you're right. Thank you, Richard.
Sorry, did Rich just say something that I don't have to type that command out?
No, you're still stuck with it.
John, can you zoom this?
I can. I think I made it too big.
And the minus recursive is to get down subsequent lower levels of.
Yeah, so
Directories.
Amazon S3, well, it's a copy command. If you were going to do that from the command line, you do cp-r. This is one of the few places Amazon breaks from that being just like CP, and you got to put the recursive on the end.
So, yeah, but the recursive is the what?
Traverse into,
Subdirectory?
yeah, grab all subdirectories and all files under them, yeah. So, and once you type this command in, if you hit return, you should see a whole mess of stuff flash up the screen.
No, I got, unless I typed it wrong, I got,
There's a space after the.
no, oh, I typed ASW as opposed to AWS.
Ah, yeah, that,
From, what do they call it, dyslexia.
Oh,
Actually, I don't,
AWS.
but let's see if I can do this the easy way.
I do after 2 p.m. And before 10, so go figure. You should have a directory called 30box in your home.
And under that, you have assignment for APA and README.
Yep.
Okay.
And then maybe if you really want to get into it. So we're going to skip the rest of this particular document because this is just a quick code compilation and a quick running of the model, which is very straightforward and should be covered tomorrow as a duplicate anyway. But you probably at the end of this might want to get some files back. So for that, we suggested FileZilla. And FileZilla's setup is actually really, really easy.
If it'll let you download it. I was mentioning earlier, I tried downloading and it's.
Oh, really?
had the virus in it and wouldn't
Huh.
wouldn't install.
That's,
So I have CyberDuck.
oh, CyberDuck's great too.
Okay, so I'll try and mimic you in CyberDuck.
Yeah, I mean, basically you just need the same information you do for SSH. It's an SFTP connection as far as CyberDuck's concerned. And it's the same host name, same username, same password. If it asks you a port number, the port number's 22.
Okay, here we go.
So, And you don't actually need this portion in FileZilla. You just can get away with typing the host name, which is techtransfer.aws.chesapeakebay.net.
All right, I may need another help from somebody else, because I have to run CyberDuck, but I don't see where I do the host and username.
Yeah.
Open connection, okay.
Yeah, I've used it a few dozen times.
Okay,
Yeah, so server, yeah, that's where you put tech transfer.
right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, just
So that would be
Just tech transfer, then AWS, then Chesapeake Bay,
.net.
.net.
Right, and then username and username, password and password, and then 22 for the port number.